Well, hey, my darling. Happy Father's Day, baby. January 25th, 2022. That is a picture of Jupiter. Jupiter. It's actually a physical picture because I happened to have a picture when I was a young astronomer. I picked this up, and Jupiter happens to be one of my favorite planets, actually. It may be the favorite. Saturn's cool to look at, but Jupiter is cool to talk about. I got a little stuff on my picture there. Jupiter. What's interesting about Jupiter is it's got a lot of clouds and storms. There's a great red spot on it. Actually, it's called the Great Red Spot. Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system by far. It's hundreds of times bigger than Earth. In fact, that little storm on Jupiter, that little spot, is much bigger than Earth. Maybe 10 times bigger than Earth. That's crazy. One storm on Jupiter is bigger than maybe 6 or 8 or 10 Earths. Think about that. Think about how small we are. Jupiter is the 5th planet from the Sun. It's after Mars. And it is unique in so many ways. It's so cool, actually. It's like its own little solar system, believe it or not. It's actually powerful enough and big enough in the solar system that it helped shape, it helped build the solar system. And it actually has 20, 30, 40 moons orbiting around it. The 4 largest are called the 4 Galilean moons, and they are interesting all by themselves. We could do a whole talk just on each one of them alone. They're like little worlds. There's Io, there is Ganymede, there is Callisto, and there's Europa. The first one, Io, actually has volcanoes, live volcanoes going off all the time, which is very rare in our solar system. And the last one I mentioned, Europa, scientists believe has water on it, perhaps ice caps and frozen water. And so the moons of Jupiter are worlds among themselves. And it was Galileo Galilei in 1610 that actually discovered them by use of his telescope. He was one of the first people to invent a telescope and to look up to the sky, and he realized, wait a minute, there's dots, there's lights, there's moons around Jupiter. Jupiter spins faster than any other planet. It completes its day in about 10 hours, where it takes Earth 24 hours to rotate. So think about something so big spinning even faster. That's just amazing. It's so fast, in fact, that it helps cause some of the storms on the planet. There's a lot of clouds and storms. And it actually makes Jupiter kind of bulge, kind of like this, so it's not like this, it's more like this. And its year, the time it takes it to go around the Sun, takes about 11 years. And part of that is because it's so far away from the Sun. The further away you get, the bigger circle you have to make, right? When you're this fast, you can go around it. When you're this close, you can go around it this fast. But when you're further away, it takes you longer, okay? Jupiter was named after the father of the gods. In fact, the ancients called it the Father Sky, or the Jupiter star. It is the 3rd brightest light, the 3rd brightest object in our night sky after the Moon and Venus. And its atmosphere is interesting too. They say, we've sent some spaceships there. We've sent the Cassini spaceship, the Voyager spaceship, the Juno spaceship. And in fact, they used Jupiter then to go deeper into space and see other planets because the gravity is so powerful. But the atmosphere, the clouds of Jupiter actually get thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker as you go. And the clouds in some places can be up to 300 miles thick and deep, I mean. And then they say you could get so deep into Jupiter that it would just become like gel, and a stiffer gel as you go. And that the gravity is so powerful, in fact, we would weigh 100 times heavier than we are now. So if, like, I'm about 170 pounds, I would weigh, what, 170,000 pounds. Or 100, yeah, 17,000 pounds. That's crazy to think, right? But the pressure would actually just squish you into a dot. It would kill you, obviously. It's so tough. The pressure of the atmosphere is so strong. So there's a lot of things fascinating about Jupiter. They also call Jupiter the vacuum cleaner of the solar system. They think that perhaps its gravity is so powerful that it actually saves Earth from being impacted, damaged, destroyed by asteroids, other pieces of rock and metal floating around space, and comets, pieces of ice and metal and rock floating around space. And they believe that Jupiter kind of uses its gravity to keep those things away or to suck them up, and maybe they crash into Jupiter instead of crashing into Earth. A lot of things to consider when you have something so precious as life on this planet. My precious little baby. So I like Jupiter. Jupiter is an exciting planet. It's got the moons, it's got the storms, it's got the red spot, it's got its gravity. It's just a really cool planet to think about and to study. And Galileo, again, was the first one to do that, essentially with a telescope, to discover those moons. And again, we could talk about those moons individually each. So we have more missions. There are more human probe missions that are being contemplated and considered to be sent to Jupiter. And so as you get older, you may be able to follow those and pay attention to some of those. Voyager spacecraft was one of the spacecrafts that visited it very early on, and it is actually now the furthest man-made object away from Earth. It is outside of our solar system, beyond all of the planets, and it's still moving. Pretty cool to think about, isn't it? So, but that is the planet Jupiter. So cool. Planet Jupiter. Think about that. Pretty cool planet. You can see it with the telescope and binoculars tonight. I certainly wish that I could see you tonight, but alas, we will keep looking up and wait for tomorrow. Happy Father's Day, my daughter. January 25th, 2022.